Market right here in ET now. Let's just revisit what the Nifty implied open is indicating and just a mildly positive start. We've in any case been quite range bound, as was the case yesterday, flickered in and out of the red to the green a lot many times and closed in marginally soft. So let's see which way the markets head this morning. But Digant Haria joins in on the show. Digant, hi, morning. I guess the markets would be very pleased. The top four cabinet ministries stay put and clearly a messaging of continuity. And I think that's something that the market would be liking.
Hi, morning. Good to be here. I think this Tuesday is far better than what last Tuesday was. Last Tuesday, we were all scared. We did not know what's going to happen. Compared to the verdict that we saw last Tuesday, I think, the cabinet and the bargaining with the allies, I think everything is falling in place. So I think the worry is less. Worry is definitely less. But because we are at elevated levels and, because this entire PSU pack and the defense infrastructure, all these things were so overheated that I think they'll still need 3 to 6 months of sideways movement or consolidation, so to say, despite the stable government. And let's not forget that in December we have a crucial state election, which is Maharashtra, and I think till then the government will be more focused on politics than on economics. So I just think that next 6 months is slight bit of pause in this 3-year bull market that we have witnessed.
Digant, had you not reminded us that it was just a week back that we had that dreaded Tuesday, I would have remembered also. But yeah, that was quite a day, wasn't it? But other than that, Digant, would you say then be a little cautious around PSUs, even though they've recovered most of them massively from the Tuesday lows? But would you say that's where the valuations are getting a little ripe? You can't take the blanket call that you could perhaps 2 years back. Now you got to be more stock selective.
Absolutely, Aisha, you summarized it that you need to be stock selective. The narrative that all PSUs will do well, and that narrative is broken for now. Fundamentals, I think, still remain very much intact. Whether it is for metals, mining, the oil and gas, or the PSU banks, I think the earnings will still come in a way that we were all expecting. But I think the narrative and the euphoria is gone, and because they are overowned, I think we will go sideways. And then, there are very, very specific events, like the SBI, the top leadership at SBI is about to change in the next 3 months. So I think people will wait and watch. They will consolidate. So I think, last Monday, the exit poll day, whatever levels you saw should be the top for PSUs for the next 6 months. And on Tuesday, whatever lows that we saw on the result day, I think that should be the floor. And I think, most of them will move in the trading band of, Monday and Tuesday, so to say. But yeah, you can have some specific outperformance. For example, see metals and mining, they are global sectors. So if aluminum, manganese, iron ore prices globally do well, I think there is no reason why PSUs in that particular pocket cannot do well. So I think we have to be very stock specific. And metals and mining is one area where we see that, we'll still progress despite, the political mandate that we saw on last Tuesday.
Sure. Digant, the first announcement after, Prime Minister Modi taking oath has been the 3 crore houses in the pipeline that he's talked about, the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana under NDA 3.0 now. What kind of investment fillip does it give? And do you think the best way to play this is going to be via microfinance? Because I think it's obvious that the government is going to now have a more sort of populist ahead of the state elections, like you were as well highlighting, kind of tone, and maybe some more freebies would be doled out.
So Aisha, we don't have the view that this government will go into a lot of freebies, because if freebies was the only thing, then BJP should not have won Odisha, and then Jagan should not have lost Andhra Pradesh, or Chandrababu Naidu should not have been able to win Andhra Pradesh, because the maximum freebies were given in that state and minimum freebies were given in Odisha, which is even poorer state than Uttar Pradesh in terms of per capita. So I just think that they'll continue with whatever plans they had before the election. I don't see that they will spend in a very big way, in populist measures. But I think we are looking for a good monsoon, and because all these rural and non-affluent consumption stocks, these have been subdued for the last 2-3 years. So maybe next 6 months there could be a bit of a bounce, but I don't really see a very big sustainable trend emerging here. And specifically to your question on affordable housing, I think these companies, these Avas and Aptus and Aadhar and India Shelter, these, private equity backed companies, they do tend to benefit a little bit, but I think the valuations there are pretty rich, and, they are growing at 20-25% despite that Awas Yojana not being so strong. So I don't think, housing finance or a microfinance is a great way to play that. Microfinance, we are entering a bad cycle for the next year. So microfinance will continue to struggle in this year. I think the bigger beneficiary should be these, the cement companies or, the roofing solution companies, the ones which help in building those houses, maybe the steel companies, because a lot of demand comes from there. So I think, there's no such need that, the spending from the government is going to be excessive in the rural sector.
Okay, stay with us. And in fact, what your outlook is on some of those IT names. Yesterday was a day where a lot of some of the large cap majors buckled under a bit of pressure. What does this indicate? Was it just a sort of a flash in the pan move or some sort of undercurrent for the rest of the year?
Yeah, no, I think this is that flash in the pan move because, on Tuesday, we all thought that political outcome is uncertain. Let's go to FMCG and IT, which is the defensive pack. So I think, that part of the trade is probably getting unwound. Having said that, see, the valuations are pretty reasonable. But until, the US and Europe, the two big contributors to the revenue for, these large cap IT names, until these economies really recover, I don't see a very big, very big reason for this sector to re-rate, so to say, because see, there is a threat. How is this sector going to cope up with AI? How is this sector, going to cope up with slowing demand from US and Europe? So there are a couple of headwinds, and on the other side, the valuations are good. So I think they will see some, periodic pop, and then they go sideways. But broadly, nothing happens. It's only if somebody is very scared, you stay in these companies, you earn some dividends, and maybe you earn that 10-12% kind of returns. So as of now, I don't see any major change. I think November is when the US goes for elections, and after November, we can take a fresh call on this sector as to how the direction of US economy goes. So that's our view. We are not very excited about this space. We think that private banks can do a little better compared to the large cap IT space.
What did you buy on Friday's fall? What did you buy that day? Sorry, not Friday, Tuesday's fall.
Okay, so so Tuesday's fall, we were just trying to see if we are overexposed to this PSU, cap goods, infra, all the hot sectors, and I think we trimmed a little bit of exposure to PSUs, and I think we got a little more specific. We bought into Nalco and Moil, which are the PSU companies which actually are into metals, mining, and the price of their say output is dependent on global front and not really what happens in domestic. So we continue to remain bullish on these two. Then Muthoot Finance was again, it is dependent on gold price. Gold price depends on what happens globally, not necessarily what happens in India. So I think these two or three segments which are actually dependent on the metal prices or the commodity prices, that is where we are bullish, and that's the only call we took on that day. And thankfully we did not take very aggressive calls of selling or anything because the market rallied very significantly in the next 3 days.
Digant, this is so strange, right? I mean, on last Monday, if you're fully invested, you said, okay, thank God, I'm fully invested, markets are up. On Tuesday, if you had cash, you said, thank God, I was sitting on cash. Wednesday, you said, oh, thank you, I was not sitting on cash because markets have rallied, right? Ho kya raha hai? Crazy, isn't
Exactly. Yeah, it was a roller coaster ride, and yeah, I think in such times, Nikunj, I think you have to give it a week or a month to you have to listen to the markets also, right? That okay, I think this will happen or that will happen, but yeah, we have to listen to the markets. We are reasonably invested, but we are also watching if those old themes they'll continue, they'll not. So Nikunj, I think in cap goods, what we are doing, caps good and industrials, the entire export focused industrials and cap goods did not do well for the last year. So we are positioning there a little more than before. And the pure domestic focused cap goods industrials, maybe we trimmed a little bit here and there, but no major change, Nikunj. I think the India story is still very much alive. It's just that next 3-6 months, we all need to digest the fact that this Amrit Kal is not going to see the political stability which we were all expecting before the last Tuesday.
Well, more visuals are coming in. More and more ministers are now taking charge. Mr. Jaishankar took charge. Mr. Vaishnav took charge. And now, where are we getting footage from? Yeah, more and more ministers are taking charge now. So you actually will see the entire day where more and more ministers, they would be joining their office, finishing the formalities. And trust me when I say that, the 100-day agenda, well, the countdown has already started. What we understand is the Prime Minister has already briefed his top team, saying that we're already 2 days in the 100-day agenda, so let's get the ball rolling ASAP. That really becomes the next moving point now. So Digant, how soon before markets will start talking about long-term budget? Because today budget is not part of the narrative, right?
Absolutely. I think see, for the long term to take place, I think we have to go. See, we have seen a very good rally from the Ukraine-Russia war lows of, say, July 22 or August 22, and it's been like a one-way street. And whatever we saw, Nikunj, in the last 4 days, we have to thank the Indian retail investor that they helped the entire market absorb what FIIs did in the last 4 or 5 or 6 days. So I think the setup in India remains very strong. I think it's just that we are at an elevated levels. There is still a bit of euphoria when it comes to valuations in small caps, the micro caps, and to some extent in the defense and the railway stocks. So I think some of it has to cool down. Maybe another 3-6 months. Things cool off, and probably after the US election and after the 3 state elections in November and December, I think we'll start talking again about the India story and the big outlook and all those things. But next 4-5 months, I think we all need to be a little more selective in what we do in the markets.
Yes, indeed. That's exactly the point that we were driving home earlier this morning. It's not going to be a synchronized move, even across baskets that may have promise. You need to be fairly selective. What are the pre-open rates indicating?